Hello Seekers, welcome back to my channel. If it's your first time here, welcome. I'm so happy to have you join us. I love doing these readings for everybody, and I thank you all of you who've taken the time and energy today to listen to this reading. Welcome. I hope it brings you the clarity and help that you need. Today we're going to look at what your higher self wants you to know. We've got the 4 piles: earth, air, fire and water. Remember that this is a general reading, so you will take from it what resonates with your soul and you will just let the rest go. If you feel drawn to more than one pile, please feel free to listen to that pile as well. Remember, the timestamps are below, and there's also a link to my full disclaimer, because this is a tarot reading only and it is for entertainment purposes. So let's have a look at the different piles and then you can decide what you would like to choose. So I've got earth with Peridot. That is a raw, unpolished Peridot. And this is a Peridot ring, which I'm actually going to wear. And I'm sorry for those scratches, but if it looks like I've been attacked by a wild animal, it was only Mr. Mittens, mighty Mr. Mittens, my cat, who was a little bit enthusiastic with his playtime this morning. So back to the piles. This is the earth pile with the natural unpolished Peridot, and the shaman card is the ancestor of tribes. The air pile, represented by the feather, has Staurolite, also known as a fairy cross, such a beautiful stone. And the shaman's card is Dancer of Life. The fire pile is such another beautiful crystal called Adamite. See how beautiful it is, and isn't it interesting how the colors match with the shaman's card, which is the shaman of tradition. I just love that kind of validation. And the final pile is the water pile with the beautiful heart-shaped K2 stone. This is from the K2 mountain in Pakistan, and it is a combination of granite and azurite cut into the shape of a heart. And your card is the Dancer of Lies. So think about the piles. I'll give you a minute or two. Earth with Peridot and ancestor of tribes. Air with Staurolite or fairy cross and the Dancer of Life. Fire with Adamite and the shaman of tradition. And water with the K2 stone and the Dancer of Lies. So take your time, pause the video if you need to have more time, let your intuition guide you to which pile you need to listen to, and then pick your pile. Welcome to your reading, Earth pile. You chose the beautiful unpolished Peridot and the polished Peridot, which I'm going to wear. And you also chose your card, your shamanic card, is the ancestor of tribes. So let's put that there. We'll look at your oracle cards first, and then we'll look at your tarot cards. So your first, your shamanic healing oracle is the beautiful swan and psychic development. Interesting. Okay, then your next oracle card is the sorcerer. You get the sorcerer and psychic development. That's interesting. Okay, let's move your Peridot over there so you can still see it. Okay. And your first tarot card, gosh, okay, the 10 of Swords. These are pretty big cards. I hope I get them all in. Let's squeeze them up. Your second tarot card, oh, that's much better. 3 of Cups. And then we have the Fool in all his enthusiasm. And then we have the High Priest. And the 7 of Wands. Let's get these. I hope you can, yes, you can see them all, I think. Just squeeze them in as much as we can. And your final card is this beautiful Hermit card. All right, Earth Power. Okay. Let's see. So this Ancestor of Tribes is a card that tells us that no matter how alone we feel, we are completely and utterly surrounded by a tribe. Now, the tribe may be just simply our family. It may be a family of blood or a family of choice. It may simply be the ancestors and spirit guides that never leave us alone. But this is a card of support. And it is about the fact that throughout all the ups and downs of our life, we have this community, either in the spirit world or in the 3D world. We have a tribe around us that gives us support. And why support has been important for you is you, Earth Power, have clearly been through a situation that has totally and utterly exhausted you. It could be anything. It could be a work situation. It could be a relationship. It could simply be something personal that's happened to you, perhaps a car accident or some kind of trauma that has left you physically and emotionally completely and utterly exhausted. Possibly a romantic relationship, because Peridot is usually about, it's good for romantic relationships, and it tends to develop a very intimate healing connection. But obviously this is a general reading, so it'll be different for each of you. And although you've been through this terribly traumatic, exhausting journey, the situation that has really, I'm not so sure, I take that back. I don't think you've been through the journey. I think something has happened. I think this has been a real traumatic moment that has just taken it out of you completely. But what your higher self is telling you, and that's what today's reading is about, we are tapping into the higher self to find out what our own wisdom, what our higher self is wanting us to know, and where we're going. And what the higher self is saying is this 3 of Cups is mostly, it's about a celebration, but it's also signifying the end of an extremely exhausting or terrible, difficult situation. So that means there's something to celebrate, because the end of hard times always brings about a celebration. And from that end, although the hard times have ended, a whole new path is opening up for you. Because the Fool signifies the beginning of a new journey. And this is definitely an inner journey. you can see there, this shamanic card is all about psychic development. It's about this trauma, this 10 of Swords trauma, has obviously kicked open a doorway in your soul, in your mind, in your energy fields. It is bringing in a whole new journey where you're going to be learning to trust your psychic development, to trust your psychic abilities, to learn discernment. I'll come to the sorcerer now, because I do think the sorcerer is connected to the psychic development. But this terribly traumatic moment that's left you exhausted, that has ended, is now sending you, it is the beginning of a new journey. And this is a journey of inner development, because the high priest, as well as the confirmation card here and the oracle card, which says that you're going to be going through a phase of psychic development, the high priest is about an inner journey. It is about learning how to tap in to the inner guru, to the inner teacher, because the high priest in traditional cards is the Hierophant, who can represent dogma, it can represent rigid teachings and traditional structures, but it is also about the teacher. It is about turning inward away from previously held belief systems. Something has shocked you out of your comfort zone, the comfort zone of the beliefs that you held dear, and it was a really exhausting and a very trying time for you, Earth Pal, but it has come to an end. There is occasion to celebrate and to get excited about this new journey that's beginning. You can see that the Fool is going along gaily. There is, of course, the fact that he's walking towards the end of a cliff, but this is all part of this inner journey of discovery. It's about taking that leap of faith and moving away from rigid dogmas, belief systems that perhaps resulted in almost an inflexibility, because that's what the Hierophant, the shadow side of the Hierophant can be. It's an inflexible attitude towards certain structures and belief systems, etc. And those would have been shattered by this traumatic event, which has now ended. You're starting your journey, your inner journey. You're going inward to find your own path, to find, to listen to your own wisdom. You are developing your own sense of discernment, your own values, your own belief systems. And this is, it could be quite difficult. It may be, it's almost like your old beliefs could be an obstacle to the journey that you are going on, to find a new path, to find your own, to become your own teacher, to be able to learn to trust your gut, to trust your intuition, to open up this whole side of you that has been buried behind rigid structures, rigid patterns. And yet this trauma, this traumatic event was so severe that you can no longer continue. And from being an obstacle, you're now gaining a new perspective. And this can represent gaining the higher ground. It could be gaining higher moral ground. It could be gaining just simply lifting yourself up out of that comfort zone and getting a new perspective, seeing what barriers, what challenges you have faced or you will be facing, but knowing that you can overcome them because you have a completely new perspective. You can see them from a different point of view. And once you see something from a different point of view, it is no longer a solid, rigid obstacle that you can't overcome. That you think of the oak tree and the willow tree. The high priest or the Hierophant at its worst, will be like an oak tree, solid, unbending, giving fantastic security and safety. But let a big storm come along, let some traumatic event come along, and that oak tree will crack. Where a willow, which is much more open, much more flexible, much more willing to bend and leap and go with the breeze, go wherever the breeze takes him. That is a new perspective that you will be gaining. There is a sense of movement here, moving away. This traumatic event has actually opened up a whole new window for you. And of course, we mustn't forget that this hasn't happened just for no reason. The ancestors are there guiding you. The ancestors are there supporting you. They are keen for you to move along this new path, to celebrate the end of structures and things that have been keeping you stuck, and encouraging you to embrace a new perspective, a higher perspective, so that you can look at your obstacles in a different way. And this path is probably going to take you on a deep inward journey, because this is the Hermit. And this is an interesting Hermit card, because the Rider-Waite has just the Hermit with his lamp. That's it. No moon, no animal. And another interesting thing about Peridot is that Peridot is often used in animal communication and healing. So I find it very interesting that this Hermit has a wolf with it. And it also has not only the inner light of its own lantern, but it has the light of the moon, the light of the other world, guiding your way. So you are not alone on this journey that you're going to take. And Earth Pile, it is a journey that is going to have, its challenges, but they are nothing that you can't cope with, because you have risen above this exhausting event. This traumatic event has opened you up on such a deep level that you've got a completely new perspective of life, of yourself. And the Hermit, yes, the Hermit does walk through the dark, but it becomes its own inner light. And of course, this Hermit is reinforcing this first card, the Ancestor of Tribes, that you will never be alone. This journey may make you feel alone because you are leaving behind the traumatic event that has broken you open. It's cracked that shell of your understanding. It has indeed left you perhaps feeling quite shattered and exhausted, but it is going to take you deep within yourself, and you are going to shine a light on the Sorcerer. And the Sorcerer ties in again with your psychic development card, because the Sorcerer is all about that. Remember, when we develop our psychic abilities, we have the ability to work in the light, but we can only work in the light once we have faced the shadow. And these two cards, I think, work together very well, because the psychic development is going to show you the light, but you need to be very aware of the shadow. And what the Sorcerer card is saying is, don't be afraid to look at that shadow. We need to understand, in any situation, no matter how traumatic it is, when we go on this inner journey, when we start the Fool's journey, part of the Fool's journey that ends in us having an inner wisdom, being our own light, shining a light not only for other people, but shining a light for ourselves, and learning to become our own inner teacher as we move away from the rigid dogmas of our past. The Sorcerer is saying, look at those aspects of yourself, the darker aspects, the shadow aspects of yourself. And remember that as you open up to your intuition, as you open up to your gut feel, You need to use discernment, because when you make decisions, when you form new perspectives, when you look at things in a different way, you want to make sure that you are looking at them from the light and not from the dark. And the sorcerer is a very powerful energy. It is a magical energy. And when it is used from a point of complete integration of the light and the shadow, it can be the most powerful magic ever. Let us just have a quick clarification of, let's see if we can get any more information about this reading for you. Spirits, please give us 2 more cards for clarification for the earth pile. Clarification for the earth pile. That one and that one. Thank you. Right, let's see. Oh, wow. Isn't this amazing? Interesting. Interesting, interesting, interesting. Darkest fears. The biggest challenge for you on this new exciting journey that has opened up before you because of this traumatic event in your past is to face your darkest fears. And that is what I was talking about with the sorcerer energy. The sorcerer energy is all about facing the darkest fears that you carry and alchemizing them, using magic to change them, your inner magic, the magic of your own energy, to change them from shadow to light. But you can't transmute them, you can't transform them unless you actually face them. And this card is saying, do not be afraid. You have the support. You will be able to take that leap off the cliff and face your darkest fears and find a way out of this exhausted state of being that you've lived in, and celebrate not only the end of this terribly exhausting time, but the new beginning that awaits you. And the second card is choose your battles. And of course, that is what we must remember. This journey towards a new you, this journey of your psychic development, this journey away from being an oak tree to being a willow that is flexible and light and feathery. It is going to involve battles. There are obstacles to overcome. But Spirit, your higher self, is saying to you, remember to choose your battles wisely. Use your discernment. Trust your gut. Some battles are not worth fighting. Save your energy for those battles that will help you overcome your darkest fears. The sorcerer, in its shadow side, has a tendency to blame others. And this card is saying, choose your battles. The battle on this journey is the battle against your darkest fears. It's about stepping up and saying, this is my stuff that I'm going to work on. And it's not being seduced by the sorcerer into projecting your darkest fears onto others and having unnecessary battles with other people. Instead, it is saying, shine your light. You are guided, not only by your own inner light, but by the light of the divine and all the ancestors. And of course, you have the strength and the courage of the wolf as your companion. And that earth pile is your reading. It is something to celebrate. It is the end of this exhausting time and the beginning of an exciting new journey for you. So good luck as you step out on your new path. And remember that this reading is sent from my heart to yours. I wish you blessings along the way and so much love. Please remember to share the love by liking and sharing this video. And I'm so looking forward to having you join us in the next reading. Hello Air Pal, and welcome to your reading. You chose, let's just put your feather over there. You chose the beautiful Staurolite or Faery cross. Let's put that there where you can see it. And you chose the Dancer of Life. This is a card of celebration. It's a card of endless possibilities. And let's see how it's going to fit in with your reading. We'll look at your oracle cards first, and then we will look at your tarot cards. So your first oracle card is Burden. Shame. See, it's a little ant carrying this huge leaf, obviously back home to the colonies. And the leaf is so much bigger than the poor little ant. Perhaps you are in a situation that you are taking on too much. And remember, Air Pal, this is your higher self bringing you a message of something that you need to hear or know about your current situation or the way where your life currently is at the moment. And your second oracle card is the beautiful, misty, ethereal ghost dance. We'll see how that fits in. Okay, let's move that there. There you are. I hope you've got space. These cards are big. So your tarot cards. The first tarot card is Two of Cups. The second tarot card, very interesting. These two cards are almost the exact opposite. Anyway, I'm not going to start talking about them until we've got all the cards laid out. So let's have a look. Your next one is the Prince, or as it's known in other packs, the Knight of Swords. Three very different types of energies here. Anyway, Seven of Swords. Can you see that? Yeah, it's a little bit, let me move that up. Seven of Swords, and then Eight of Cups. Interesting. And your final card is the Six of Pentacles. Right, Air Pal. So, as I mentioned, this is the Dancer of Life card. This is a card of union. It is a card of joining hands to celebrate, to create something bigger than the self. It is a card of endless possibilities. It's a card of joy. It's a card of expressing yourself completely, authentically, completely, truly, and ecstatically almost in the ecstatic dance. And it's interesting that your first tarot card is the Two of Cups, because the Two of Cups, it's about a reconciliation. It's about union, which carries on the theme from the Dancer of Life card. This is about union either with another person, as in a relationship. It's a reconciliation either in a relationship, but mostly when you do the type of tarot reading that I do, I interpret this card more to mean a reconciliation within yourself, a unification of the aspects in yourself that are out of harmony. So what your higher self is coming through here to tell you is that there is something out of balance in your life. and you need to reconcile those two aspects. So air pile, and it may be because this is the air pile and that is the intellect. You've got these two swords, which are challenging sword cards, which I'll talk about now. And cups are emotions. And the Two of Cups in its highest expression is a strong emotional balance. But often we have this conflict between head and heart, and you see, so this, if you're feeling burdened about something, if things are out of balance, then life can become a burden. You know, perhaps you're doing too much. Perhaps there are wounds or fractures in your soul, probably linked to this Five of Pentacles card, which we'll talk about now. Perhaps you're doing too much for the colony, your tribe, or at work, perhaps you're doing more than your fair share. And this burden is creating an imbalance. And you maybe need to reassess and reevaluate why you're taking on so much more, and how it's manifesting in your life and in your soul, how it's manifesting as something that needs to be reconciled, that needs to be brought back into balance. And one of the triggering events, one of the things that may make you take on more than you should, could be that some part of yourself constantly feels like an outsider, constantly feels alienated, that there's almost a separation between you in the situation and the joyous, happy, playful, nicer side of life. You know, perhaps you working, doing other people's work, doing things, taking on too much because you want to be accepted, because you feel that if you do the work, you won't be the outsider, and then you will be more loved, more accepted, and more part of the union of the greater tribe. And how this may come about, what this feeling of being overburdened, this feeling of being an outsider, it may make you react in a fairly defensive way. This is a card, it's the Knight card in other decks. It's called the Prince of Swords here. This is a very sharp, intelligent, strategic, almost manipulative energy. It uses words to manipulate. It uses this very high intellect to manipulate situations to give the outcome that it wants. But it rushes in very fast. The Knights are always, except for the Knight of Pentacles, the Knight of Swords will rush in with quick words. And this is perhaps a defense mechanism, springing from this feeling of being an outsider, springing from the exhaustion, from being overburdened. And it's perhaps this that needs to be reconciled, dropping the defenses, not feeling that you need to defend yourself or your position with cutting words, and maybe just leading from the heart, you know, reconciling, bringing more balance between the heart and the head, that if you express your true authentic self, if you make yourself more vulnerable, I mean, look how protected this prince is. He's very, 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 very highly protected. So the higher self is saying, consider dropping your defenses. Consider perhaps laying down the swords, not giving yourself a headache. The Seven of Swords is a card of strategic planning. It is a card of almost, it again is another card of manipulation, and it suggests that there's this feeling of lack, which results in a planned campaign, if I can use that term, a planned campaign to achieve results or to get something that one feels one doesn't have. And in this situation, there's perhaps that feeling of not belonging somewhere. But at the end of the day, that feeling of not belonging comes from disharmony within our own soul. Because if we are fully accepting of all our aspects of ourselves, and if we bring them into balance, once we accept ourselves and we love ourselves for all our quirks and our gifts and our traits that are perhaps not so great, once we can embrace all of that as being perfect and relevant to who we are and where we are on our journey, we can put down that desire. We can put aside that desire to have to work at being accepted. We will be so accepting of ourselves in all our warts and beautiful aspects that other people will just start accepting us as well. And this feeling of being alienated, of not being part of the tribe, of being overburdened because we are doing so much to try and make ourselves accepted. And the key thing here is this is a card of walking away. This is a card of looking at old emotional patterns, because the water, of course, encompasses emotions that are not serving us. And it is about turning our back on them and starting to find a new way of being, moving away, letting the past go, just cutting the ties, whether those ties are to emotional wounds that have perhaps caused emotional or perhaps relationship wounds that have made us feel that we are not part of a community or a tribe or even part of life. Perhaps here we've been so hurt and wounded in the past that we are not participating in life itself. And that's what the Dancer of Life is all about. That the more you participate in life, the more joy and harmony and balance, and the more we can just not feel so burdened and sad and alone, we will be able to go out there and embrace the union, the ecstatic union with other people and with life itself. And this card, the higher self with this card, is giving us a message that we need to not try and fill up those cups again. We need to just turn our back and let go, release what is not working for us, and find a new way of walking into a different future that we want to create for ourselves. But it does come with a caveat, in that the Six of Pentacles is on the surface a card of generosity, but there is an underlying energy of an imbalance of power here. So perhaps somewhere in your life, this overburdened feeling, perhaps there is some kind of overbalance in that there is a feeling of that needing to be accepted, to accept the crumbs from other people's tables, to have somebody else who is higher. You can see this figure is higher than those that are doing the begging. We are overburdened with either worries or concerns or the desire to be accepted, or just physical hard work, because pentacles are to do with the real world and material issues. But this card is saying to us that we need to carefully examine two aspects of power. There is the power that this old man has to give out the coins. He has the power of life or death over the begging hands. He can be seen as a benevolent, generous benefactor, but in actual fact, he has a huge power, which is to decide who gets a coin and who doesn't. And with these begging figures, whoever gets a coin will survive, and whoever doesn't get a coin won't survive. But there's another type of power in this card which is equally unbalanced, and that is the power of the victim, the power of the martyr. Because if we are too trapped in this feeling of always being victimized, of always being martyred, of always being the outsider, of always being overburdened, and we are so trapped in our defenses, behind our sharp words and our steel barrier of defenses that hides our vulnerabilities, that hides our heart from other people. And we're constantly thinking of ways that we can protect ourselves, devising strategic plans, how we can keep ourselves protected and safe. We need to let go of those feelings so that we can open up to a more balanced kind of power. Neither the power of having the power of life or death, or of acceptance or rejection over other people, but also not stepping into the power of being the victim. Sorry, excuse me. Because the power of being a victim is as omnipotent a power as that of the guy giving out the coins. Because how can you, if somebody has embraced the power of being a victim or the power of being a martyr, it is extremely difficult to walk away and break those chains and step into your own power, where you, for yourself, have the right to decide who gets what and who doesn't. So that bears thinking about. The ghost dance is about being in total union with the world around you, both the unseen world, and it's very interesting that this is also a card of dance. This is the dance of life. This is the dance, the ghost dance. So this is a dance that joins ecstatically with endless possibilities in life itself. And this is a dance that stays hidden in the shadows, that is almost separated from the living. So let's just get a couple of cards to see if we can get a little bit more clarity on that ghost dance, and see if there's a little bit more that spirit or your higher self can give you for this reading. Kindly give us 2 cards for the air pile to clarify what we need. And there is 1 card. Oops, that card wants to come out too. So let's see what those cards have to say. Oops. Oh, sorry, I've just pulled I'm getting so excited at the thought of the 2 cards. I knocked my camera. Sorry, air pal. Okay. Love abounds. What a beautiful, beautiful card to end this reading on. And strengthening bonds. Gosh, air pal, this is a beautiful additional message. Because remember, we started off by saying that this is a card of this is a reading that is to do with the reconciliation of disharmonious or fractured parts of yourself. And your card of your opening card was about a union with life itself, a union with others, creating a whole new energy. And far from being the outsider, what your higher self is telling you is that if you work at strengthening the bonds with the people around you, if you work at lessening your burdens, lower your defenses, walk away. You see here, the 8 of Cups is directly under the 5 of Pentacles. So higher self is saying, walk away from this feeling of being an outsider, because love abounds. You can strengthen your bonds with others by simply coming into a realization that you have the power to love and be loved. You are worthy of all the love that is out there in the universe, waiting to reach out and wrap around you. And all you need to do is to drop those swords of defense, and strengthen your bonds with life, with other people, and you will find that far from being an outsider, the new path that you will take will be a path towards love. And that, air pal, is your reading sent from my heart to yours. I wish you blessings and so much love. Please remember to share the love by liking this video or subscribing to my channel. And I so look forward to seeing you in the next reading. Welcome to your reading, Fire Pal. You chose the beautiful Adamite, and you chose the Shaman of Tradition. So let's put that over there, and we'll move your candle over there and your beautiful Adamite over there so you can see it nicely. So we'll look at your oracle cards first. Remember, we're doing this reading about what your higher self wants you to know. So there is something that you are perhaps not seeing, and your higher self is going to come through with a message to say, this is what you need to look at with a different perspective. So we'll look at your oracle cards first, and then we'll look at your tarot cards. So your first oracle card, great. What a lovely way to begin the reading. It's all good. That's a very nice start. And your second oracle card is the mysterious, beautiful, holy mountain. So we'll put that there. And let's look at your tarot cards. The Queen of Pentacles. Your next one is, gosh, the Lady, or the Empress, as it's more commonly known. Tradition, Pentacles, the Empress, all very stable, very solid. It's all good. So far, this is a very lovely, warm, harmonious reading. So you're clearly in a very good space, Fire Pal. Although, as I say that, this is the Fire Pal. Fire, of course, likes a lot of energy. It likes a lot of freedom. And these three cards are suggesting perhaps a little bit of sluggishness. Anyway, let's go on. Let's see what your other tarot cards are before we jump ahead. Seven of Cups. All about dreams and dreaming. And the Moon, okay? Here's a little bit. We maybe need to dig a little bit deeper. Beyond the surface of it's all good, sometimes things can be too good to be true. And this Moon is suggesting, especially for Fire Pal, which likes a lot of activity, go-getters, action-orientated, Three of Swords, okay? All right, underneath the Empress. All right, let's look at your last card. Oh, beautiful. Ties in nicely. The card of Victory, Six of Wands, ties in very nicely with the Six of Wands. So, although there seems to be a few small undercurrents here, Fire Pal, I don't think it's anything to worry about. It doesn't seem to be a major problem or issue or challenge. As I said, the Shaman of Tradition, this is a card that reminds us that traditions and rituals have always been hugely important. They've always played a huge role in humanity's existence. And today we may not have the rituals that we used to have 1,000 or 500 years ago, but we still have our own little rituals. Getting up in the morning, having your cup of coffee, brushing your teeth, and then changing to go to work. And if you do that every day, that's a ritual. Driving the same way to work every morning, or to drop the kids off at school. So our rituals and traditions may not be what they were for our ancestors, but we have developed our own little rituals, waking up first thing in the morning and checking our messages. So this card reminds us and brings to us the message from the higher self that these traditions are very, very important, because they bring to us a sense of stability. And while chaos and the firepower of change and excitement and the new can all be very exciting. It can also be quite disruptive, where tradition is very stable, it's very solid, it allows for growth, it allows for long-term growth, it brings comfort, it brings ease. And this, both the Queen of Pentacles and the Empress or the Lady, these cards are so similar. They're both about nurturing, about motherhood. This is perhaps more on a universal level, and this is more on a family level. So there's very much a strong energy here, whether you're a male or female listening to this reading. That's not applicable. We all have the male and female energies within us. And this is very much about a solid, stable energy that is full of abundance. It's keen to share its abundance. It is protective. It's protective of the earth. It's protective of love. It's a very fertile energy. It's an extremely creative energy. It's an energy that brings a flowering of abundance to everything that it touches. And you know, this kind of abundance, this kind of fertile flowering comes from the stability of traditions. So clearly, whatever the traditions are in your life and in your soul and in your family, they are bringing in a lot of stability, a lot of abundance, a lot of beautiful, calm, healthy, beautiful energy. But there is this underlying sense almost of, I won't say dissatisfaction, but perhaps almost a fear, an unconscious fear of dreaming, of having new dreams. And that actually is interesting because Adamite, one of the energies that Adamite brings in is the ability, or it gives one the courage to explore the new. And I think that's that little feeling that I got, that little twitch of energy that I got as I was laying the cards out, that something was maybe, you know, maybe it was too good to be true. Yes, it is all good. The abundance is there, the stability is there, but there's something in the unconscious, there's something hidden. Either you've forgotten how to dream, or perhaps more likely with this Three of Swords, which is all about past hurts. Perhaps there may be a fear of dreaming, and so it's safer to just sit on the edge of the pond rather than reaching out for those cups. Because if you reach out for those cups, you will have to start a new journey. You will have to ascend to the top of the mountain and descend on the other side as you come down. And the holy mountain is all about answering the call of some sacred part of yourself, of some, there is a call, a need to find a new path, a need to have a time of reflection, a time of looking deep within, looking into your unconscious, looking at what fears are stopping you from dreaming, firepower. Is it the fear of losing this stability, all this abundance, the stability that you have earned, that you have worked for? It's all good. Are you scared of rocking the boat if you change your traditions, if you change the way you do things? Are you afraid that you're going to lose everything? Is that the unconscious fear? Perhaps it was something that happened in the past, that you had reached the pinnacle of success and you lost everything, and that caused a deep wound, a heartbreak, a sense of loss that hasn't yet healed, fully healed. But what your higher self is telling you, firepower, is do not be afraid. Not once, but twice in your reading, you have the victory card. This one perhaps is a little bit deeper than plain victory, because the Six of Wands is a victory parade. It does show that there is still a little way to go. They haven't quite got to the end of the journey yet. And perhaps to have total abundance, to be in this completely fecund state of being, you need to have the courage to look into your subconscious and see what dreams you still need to risk, so that you can heal this unhealed part of yourself that is afraid to dream because you don't want to risk what you've already got. But remember, tradition is a foundation. It's not a prison. And there's nothing wrong with having the dreams of trying a new path. You just need to face your fears and overcome them, and know that with the stability that you've already built up, there's no way that these wounds are going to reoccur. And this card is not only a card saying it's all good, it also suggests that even in the darkest corners of our unconscious, we can find silver linings. Even in the heartbreak, we can find silver linings. So whatever happens to us is all good. And this situation will end in victory. But you need to do some soul searching and to find out, what dreams are you ignoring? What are your fears? And what wounds do you have that you still need to heal? Let's quickly draw 2 more cards to see if we can get a little bit more information from your higher self. Spirit, kindly give me 2 more cards for, oh, there's one popping out and there's another one. Thank you very much. Oops. Getting so excited I knocked the camera over. Right. Share the love and trust. Beautiful cards. Beautiful cards. This card confirms and reaffirms this abundant life of success, of mellow, happy living within a comfortable life of success, of nurturing others, of nurturing the self, of having a wealth of goods to embrace and to share and to have, and just essentially having a wonderful, rich life. And this confirms that card. It is the 3 of Cups, which is usually a celebration card. And this is a major arcana card. It's the Fool in the normal decks. It is a card of trust. And the Fool shows a young man going off on a new adventure, about to take a leap off a cliff. He's full of dreams and enthusiasm and a sense of adventure. And he boldly walks along this new path, full of trust that whatever comes will in the end work out for the good of all. So what beautiful cards to end your reading on, Fire Pal. Your higher self has brought a confirmation that you have done well, and also a reminder that you do need to keep on dreaming, because you will not lose what you have. You will only expand it into new directions and more love and more abundance to share. And that, Fire Pal, is your reading sent from my heart to yours. I wish you blessings and so much love. Please remember to share the love by liking this video or subscribing to my channel. And I really look forward to having you join us in the next reading. Welcome to your reading, Water Pal. You chose the heart-shaped Azurite and Granite, the K2 stone from Pakistan's K2 mountain. So we'll put that over there. We'll move your water to the side. Let's put it over there. There's your water. You also chose the Dancer of Lies. Now this is a card, it's a card about something's not authentic in this situation. Remember, the reading we're doing today is about your higher self has something that it wants to make you aware of, it wants to bring to your attention, and that card is probably critical in your message, Water Power. It's all about a trickster energy that leads you from, if you have a look here, the shamanic figures on the rock, on the cave wall, are dancing towards the deep darkness of the back of the cave. And this is an energy that takes you away from the light. It takes you away from an authentic way of being into the shadows and into the darkness, where you can possibly get lost. So let's see what your other cards are before we start worrying about that card. So we'll look at your oracle cards first and then your tarot cards. Ascension. This is the card of Ascension. Very interesting. And your other one, your next oracle card, is the Wild Woman. Now that's very interesting, because the Wild Woman and the Dancer of Lies are the exact opposite. Because the Wild Woman is all about freeing yourself, and it doesn't matter whether you are a male or a female listening to this reading. This is just an energy. It is a symbolic of reaching in and getting in touch with your most deepest authentic self and flinging off the chains and just dancing to your own tune and just letting your authenticity lead you wherever it's meant to lead you, and knowing that you are living an authentic life. So it's just so interesting that you've got the Dancer of Lies, which is all about inauthentic living, and the Wild Woman, which is all about being authentic. And in between the two, you've got Ascension. But we'll talk more about that once we've seen what your tarot cards are. So your first card, Water Power, is Two of Pentacles. Interesting. That is trying to find balance between two extremes. Okay, let's look at the others before we start getting sidetracked. The Wheel. Slow turning Wheel of Fortune. And Justice. Interesting, another major arcana. And the Princess of Swords, or as it's called, the Page of Swords in other decks. And another major arcana, Rebirth, or the Judgment card in the more traditional decks. And your final tarot card is the beautiful King of Cups. Right, Water Power. Let's have a look at your cards. So we've got this, your higher self is bringing to your attention that somewhere in some part of your life, there is something that is not authentic, that there's a danger of it leading you off the true path. There is something out of balance, something out of sync, some self-doubts. You are going from one extreme to the other. The Two of Pentacles is always about making a choice, trying to keep things well balanced and avoid the choice. But in the end, you have to make the choice. You have to choose one or the other, or else you'll get exhausted, because how long can you keep bouncing the Two Pentacles and keeping them in balance? It's about advising you to look clearly at the situation and see what it's almost like an opposition in astrology, where you need to find a way to keep yourself centered between the two opposing planets. In this case, the two discs, you're trying to keep them in balance. And how do you remain centered when you're so busy going from the one to the other? And your next card is the Wheel. It's a major arcana. It is all about the cycles of life. Sometimes we're up, sometimes we're down. Sometimes there's summer, sometimes there's winter. And these cycles of life are inevitable. There's nothing we can do to stop them. It's about, in this reading, I think in your reading, Waterpile, I think it's about personal cycles. It's got something to do with this inauthenticity, this trying to keep two opposing pentacles, two opposing beliefs, two opposing doubts or desires, or it'll be different for each one of you because this is a collective reading. But the wheel of life, the wheel of fortune, is turning round and round. It is an inevitable cycle. And unless you have resolved these doubts, unless you have found which is authentic and which is inauthentic, because remember, we have here at the end the Wild Woman, which is all about dancing to the authentic, to the tune of your authentic self. It is about throwing off that which is not true to you and walking and living in a state of authenticity rather than dancing in a state of lies. And that perhaps may be the two pentacles that you have to choose between, which is the mask and which is the real you. And the Wheel of Fortune is turning. It is inevitable, it is inexorable, and it will be bringing you to a point where you're going to have to look very clearly and with the eyes of an unbiased justice. You will need to look at the truth, not the external truth, but the internal universal truth that is buried in your heart. And this is the sword of truth and the scales of justice. And this card is calling you to use discernment, to use wisdom, to look into yourself, to look at where you are being inauthentic and where you are living, or where you want to live an authentic life. Because, and a quote from Seneca has just come into my mind: he who will, the gods lead. He who won't, the gods drag. And in the context of this reading, Waterpile, that is telling me that as the cycles of life turn and turn and turn, and the Wheel of Fortune turns and turns, you can either make the choice between the two pentacles, the pentacle of authenticity, the pentacle of inauthenticity, the dancer of lies versus the wild woman, and you can either use this inner justice, this inner wisdom to decide which is the one you need to let drop so that you can focus all your energies on being authentic. Unless you do it, it's going to happen to you rather than as a free choice. But this next line and this Ascension card, now maybe there's something holding you back, that you feel that you can't make this giant leap. Because we all think, when we think about Ascension, we all think that is a great leveling up. It's one huge step. But in actual fact, every little step of progress that we make in our life and in our souls and in our emotional journeys, and this is the Waterpile, which of course is about emotions, Ascension isn't one giant leap. It is step by slow step. And sometimes we have to take a step back, and sometimes we have to take 2 steps forward. But Ascension is not a single giant leap up in a kind of lightning bolt moment. It is a slow process that takes us not one lifetime, but many lifetimes to achieve. But this Princess of Swords is looking towards the rebirth. You see, That's how the cards fell. The Princess of Swords is facing the Rebirth card, which is another major arcana card. So this is quite a big deal for your higher self. Your higher self is being quite adamant that this is a message that you need to think about and reflect on, the difference between the authentic part of your life and the inauthentic part of your life. But the Princess of Swords is saying you are ready. You are ready to find a new way of thinking, to cut through the swords, to cut through the ropes and the ties of inauthenticity, and to step out into this rebirth, into this new way of being, an innocent child, naked, vulnerable, and yet totally courageous and ready for anything, all the abundance that the universe has to offer. This is a card, it's the Judgment card in the traditional decks, and it's all about answering the call of your soul. And your soul is ready. As the Princess of Swords, she is looking towards the rebirth. And following the rebirth, we have the King of Cups, which in all its maturity, it is a card of emotional mastery. It is a card of emotional abundance. He is so stable in his emotions that he leans forward. You see, he is followed, he's looking forward, and he is followed by the wild woman, the authentic, the totally authentic way of being that the wild woman brings into your life. It is possible to be completely and totally in touch with all aspects of yourself, with the deepest truth of your soul, because the King of Cups brings with it an emotional maturity, an emotional mastery that does not allow you to be tricked and deceived by the seductive dance of living an inauthentic life that is perhaps easier to face. Let's draw a couple more cards, see if we can get a little bit more information on perhaps where or how this struggle between trying to keep the masks up, between this dance of lies and the truth of the wild woman's dance. Let's see if we can get a bit more information. Spirit, kindly give me 2 cards for the, that one wants to come out, and that one wants to come out. Thank you very much. Let us see now. Balance. Interesting. How interesting that. And it's another major arcana card. It is the card of temperance. It's about keeping things in balance and not rushing into anything, but step by step making the changes that are necessary to live an authentic life. It's no need to suddenly drop the 1 pentacle and everything goes out of balance. This is a card of harmony. It's a card of stable change, if I can put it that way. And let's see your second card. Wow, what a beautiful card to end the reading on. Healing begins. Let me repeat that. Healing begins. That is such a lovely card, Water Power, because that tells me that this Princess of Swords, looking at the rebirth, will grow into the emotionally mature King of Cups who can live totally authentic, a totally authentic life, because the healing has started the moment that you make the choice to start the ascension process away from the dance of lies and towards the dance of the wild woman. Healing begins. And what a beautiful reading that has ended up being. And that water pile is your reading. It is sent from my heart to yours. I wish you blessings and so much love on this journey of yours. And if you have the time, please remember to share the love by liking this video or subscribing to my channel so that I may have the pleasure of having you join us in the next reading.